Greetings, 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 greetings worldwide to Augies everywhere. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, and welcome to our Thursday evening live stream. It's a beautiful day here. It's been quite warm. It's quite warm in the shack. It's 77 in here. Got two fans going, but hopefully that doesn't mess with the sound too much. It's good to see everybody and chat a little bit. Looks like the contest university that is normally held on Thursday at Dayton was held today over the internet, and that it was a success. Tomorrow, of course, would have been the first day of Dayton, and I would have been there. We were all set, ready to go. Oh well, next year we will do it. So, answering some of the questions that I'm getting here. And let's see, Contest University, yeah, good. They've got some interesting stuff. You know, there's two ways you can learn about a subject. You can get somebody who is a pedagogue, meaning a professional teacher, to take the material, organize it, and present it to you, or you can hear from the people who actually do it. And oftentimes they're not the best at explaining it, but there's something that's viscerally, real about hearing from the people who did it. And that's what happens at Contest University. Those people are all very good at what they do and really love their contests. So would have been a lot of fun. Let's see here. Oh, James Totten soloed in an Aranca 7AC. I'm trying to find an airplane somewhere in the $15,000 price range, and there's not much out there. You can get some antiques, and that's it. When you use an amplifier, does it cut down on the received signal strength? Well, the received signal runs through the amplifier to get back to the radio, so there's a relay or two that it goes through there. The loss is usually quarter of a dB, half a dB, not very much, not significant, and certainly picked up by the RF amplifier in the receiver's front end. So in theory, it cuts it down a bit. In practice, you don't notice the difference. Let's see. Great there, we're over 3,000 watching. That is good. Grew up 30 miles from Dayton, but never made it to the Ham Fest. I was in the Dayton area at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in, I think, 1977. And I was at Wright-Pat for a course. And somebody told me, hey, you ought to go down to the fairgrounds and see this ham radio show. And I went down there, and it was Dayton Hamvention, and I found a booth with a computer that was playing Star Trek. And this was an old, Z80 computer. This was ancient. And I spent the whole day there, so I never did see the rest of the convention. I got hung up on that computer game. That computer game, of course, is so old and obsolete nowadays, but it was very intriguing back then, back when data was stored on cassette tapes, if they worked. So, I remember when I was there had been a hurricane out in Xenia a few months before, and having grown up in California, which is not hurricane country, I was kind of curious, so I drove out to Xenia, little knowing that it would become the new venue for the Dayton Hamvention. So, we got there last year, we got there the year before, and was hoping to make this my third year ago. I think it's 67 years to get there. Need to build an antenna for the frequency range of 850 to 860 megahertz. Was going to do a dipole. Where would it be best to tune the antenna at? You can try a sleeve dipole like the one I made for my little ADS-B receiver here. At those frequencies, the antenna length is only about that long, and you can easily make it from a sleeve dipole. Check one of my recent videos on how to do that. It actually was a lot easier than I thought it would be. let's see, from North Carolina. Several people from North Carolina. So I'm sort of back to flying. The airplane that we took out last week had radio problems, and so it was offline for another week. We go again tomorrow morning. I'm going to have to pick up the pace of the flight training. I've decided it's kind of like playing the organ at church. I don't have any particular talent for it, but I just wanted to do it so bad I stuck with it, and now I play hymns in church, accompanying the congregation and stuff like that, and I do it on an irregular basis when needed. And I think I'm probably the same way with flying. I don't have an innate talent. I'm not a Harry Potter of airplanes. But I'm just going to stick to it till I get it. And I'm going to go out and enjoy it. And we live in a beautiful area. I'm looking forward to taking a whole new way of touring it, rather than from a motorcycle now to something up a little bit higher. So that will happen. Next weekend is the YouTuber Harvest. There is a YouTuber thing at 4 p.m. Central Time on the 31st, YouTubers Bunch, that I've been asked to join and have agreed to do that. So it should be a lot of fun. Let's see. Taking my 58 Cessna 150 up in the morning to warm the engine to change the oil. There you go. A 150 doesn't count as a light sport aircraft. It's a little bit too heavy. The Cessna 162 was 160 or 162 was made specifically to be a light sport aircraft, but none of them are old enough to have a really low price. They all run $45,000 to $60,000, which is 3 times my price range. Four times. Okay. Believe it or not, you can get these old Aeroncas and Air Coupes for quite reasonable prices. They're vintage aircraft. They've been beautifully maintained. I've seen some wonderful videos about these things. Luscombe is another one. Well, why don't we turn to our purpose here, which is ham radio. And let's see. Okay. I don't know why somebody put their call sign up there and the system held it. I went ahead and approved it, of course. Okay, these are the ones left over from Saturday. Not very many, but then I have a whole bunch left over from March that we couldn't get to. It's sort of a very nice little cause and effect thing. I started the second live stream of the week, which is this one, to finish up the questions from the first one, but now that just generates more questions, so that's great. The questions that are getting through to me seem to be the ones that you use the web form. Go to ke0og.net/ask-dave, and that seems to work. Every Saturday there's a few that don't make it through. I try to post the names from those, because I get the name and maybe the call sign, but the rest of the form doesn't come through. So I'm going to have to, I've looked at it. It looks like everything is in order, and it works most of the time. You think that something like that works most of the time would work all of the time, but that's not always the case. This is from Eric, Golf 4, Victor Zulu Zulu, so UK. It says, thanks for the videos. Been using G5RVs in various forms for years. Now has an extra large G5RV that is 205 feet long, 62 meters long, with ladder line at 17 meters or 55.7 feet. And it's performing very, very well for him. He's gotten a lot of good DX in stateside and top band. An antenna that size will work in 160. And he's querying me why it works so well. Well, I think the answer is this. It's 50 feet in the air. So with 50 feet in the air on 80 meters, 40 meters particularly, you'll get good radiation out to the sides. And 80 meters, it's kind of good. It's up a little bit more. Of course, 160 is pretty much up. But I think it's the height that's doing the good job for you. If you've got a good antenna situation there, hold on to it. It's sounds like you've got something really spectacular there. I don't have anything here that's 50 feet high. We live in what's called an alpine desert. There's lots of trees. There's pinyon pines and there are junipers. And about the tallest they get is 30, 35 feet. So not really something to hold an antenna to. The fact is, we're at 7,000 feet altitude, which is, here it comes, 2138 meters high. My little clock is set on meters, the GPS clock. By the way, I never did get that. I was never able to reprogram that chip on that thing. Okay, this is from Dwight, N7CAP. Have you considered an ultralight aircraft? I have looked at them. It is not what I'm looking for. What are your goals? To fly and have fun or go long distances? Yes. Yes. I want to go places in the airplane, visit family. I also want to just fly around here. Can't wait for fall because the place is just so beautiful in the fall. But I will check out that address that you suggested there. This one is from Dave, W4DOE. On your 2nd May 2020, you recommended the MFJ259C because you could quickly determine the resonant frequency of an antenna. I did. I'm not sure it could possibly be faster than my Rig Expert AA55 zoom. I've got a Rig Expert here that they sent to me for review. That's a very nice antenna analyzer and does all kinds of spectacular things. And I used it initially on the antenna, the MFJ17754, and it just said it was horrible in the 40 meter band. What I did not realize until I got the 259C out and just started turning the knob back and forth was that if there, if you had to length, the antenna was sold deliberately long. You had to shorten it. Cessna 115 Tucson going, yeah, I know. Unfortunately, it's not a light sport aircraft. The one, yeah. Release next version of study guides for the extra class should be, yeah, the current pool expires on the 30th of June. And the new manuals, I have heard that there's a waiting list for them. I'll have to get that. Do the bass pedals on the organ pieces usually match the lowest note of the left hand? The answer is, if you're playing a hymn, yes. I don't play it with my hand, though. I play it with my foot. And then the pedals not only give me the note from what would be the lowest note on the left hand, they also give me 1 octave below that. In some cases, 2 octaves below that. And that's what gives the organ its presence and rumble. Why do I call it more reliable? You mean the antenna analyzer? I don't know. I don't mean reliability in the availability sense. How come I can hand send CW at 30 words per minute but only receive CW at 10? That's because your brain's thinking ahead. It knows what you're going to send. Well, it is you, okay. And you know what you're going to send, and your mind is forming the letters in advance. When you're receiving, and this is my big problem, I start to assume what is coming. I'm reading something, and then somebody will send a different letter from what I was expecting, and I lose it for several letters there. But that's normal. Tim, what you're doing there is normal. G5RV Junior did not work as well as my dipoles in 40 meters. Yeah, I've not been a real fan of G5RVs. You need to get them so high. 603 Michigan. Don't understand. I don't see the G being long enough. It's supposed to be for 40 and up. She's got a low-cost TYT, U-band, DMR. I can't reach the local repeaters in my basement office shack. You probably won't. You need an outdoor antenna. And a lot of people make outdoor antennas. MFJ makes a number of dual-band 2-meter, 70-centimeter antennas, and then you need to run coax down to your handheld. You also need to ground that antenna. And then it'll work for you like gangbusters. What advice do you have for an external antenna setup to accommodate that's what I just mentioned. Okay. Hello, Far West Missouri. KD6UDA did 2-meter air mobile and had a contact at like 200 miles. Yes, that works easily. That does. I haven't watched that show, but I did see the teaser for it. Okay, this is the 259C. We were talking about the 259C. The 259C is dead easy to use. The Rig Expert is a very nice thing. So the question is, what do I put down for the reference station one? Do I put a more expensive one that is a little harder to use, or do I put something basic and will last you for a few years? I've had my 259B for 10 years, maybe more than that, and it still works, and I still use it every time. I think I've put that down. The 259C is the equivalent today. If you want to spend the extra money, you can get a 269C, which will include 440. But the problem in my mind with 440 is a wavelength 70 centimeters, which is about that much. And you start getting little extensions out of the, like a little piece of coax or something out of the unit. You're up to a significant fraction of a wavelength. And that piece of coax acts as an impedance transformer. And so it gets really hard to read accurate results from that. Okay. This one is from Doug McDougall, Victor Echo 3, Delta Golf Yankee in Canada. Thanks for what you do. So I'm getting noise spikes at intervals of 76 kilohertz on bands 40 and down. Traced it to my DV satellite receiver, which is on the floor above the shack. You are hearing the switching in the switching power supply for that unit. My HF coax comes off my dipole and runs along outside about 1 foot from the satellite coax. Turn the receiver off. No interference on the radio, but lots from the family. Any ideas on how you filter out the noise? I would get a number of those clamp-on ferrite beads and put them on the power lead coming out of the satellite receiver. Put them up right next to the thing. You might also try grounding that satellite receiver and see if that helps. If it is just a 2-prong plug, which it may very well be, you might want to change that for 3-wire and then ground the chassis from some convenient point on the outside, little screw on something, and get that thing grounded and get those beads in there. It should remove a lot of it. Okay, those are those from then. Let's see. There's a wall at about 10 words per minute. Yeah, there is. The plateau at about 10. Now, Tim, let me tell you the best way to get your code speed up. And I know you're going to run screaming from the room when I say this, but get on the air. There is no greater motivation than trying to figure out what some real live ham is sending you on the other end. Now, you have to be careful to only send at 10 words per minute, because people will send back to you at the rate you send. Okay, now, there's the SKCC, the Straight Key Century Club, has some favorite frequencies and some operating suggestions and so on. 40 meters is a good band to start out on CW. You want to be looking about 7045 to about 706 for CW in there. There's also a band around between 7.1 and 7.125 for slow code. And there's no better way your code speed will go up faster doing what I suggest than trying to use a machine to do it. Because you have the machine and something doesn't work, you can blow it off. But when you have to ask somebody for a repeat, it gets kind of real. And it's like how you can't learn to fly an airplane on the ground. You got to get in one. Let's see, do you like disc cone antennas for HTs? They work. They're a little pricey, I think. I think you might do better with a dual band antenna from MFJ. I should pick one and make it part of the reference station. I've got an antenna here that's a 3-band antenna. It's got 2 meters, 1.25 meters, and 70 centimeters. But I don't have a base for it. I need to build a base for it. Let's see. Oh, here's somebody who graduated away from the 259C. That's good. Morse machines for Android is awesome. Good. Now get on the air. Get on the air. Have you done anything about a reference station video? I've done a number of videos about the reference station. Let's see. In the last 20 years, I've used a horizontal loop cut for 80 meters, using antenna tuner for all the other bands. Yes, that works fine. I'm just tech level studying for general. I do not understand what a reference station is. It's a term from engineering, and obviously I picked a bad term because I'm often asked what it means. It is a station that I'm assembling here, okay? I've taken my stuff out of the way and put an ICOM 7300, and I put a Samlex power supply and all that, and I'm listing this. If you go to dcastler.com/reference, it shows you everything there. The idea is, here is a station that you can use as a reference. You can either duplicate it or you can depart from it, but it gives you a point of reference to do your own thing out there. And a lot of people have chosen to just duplicate it. If they're starting from scratch, that'd be an easy thing to do. And then what I do is, whenever I do a demonstration, like I just did a demonstration yesterday, day before yesterday, about setting up the voice memories in the thing. Now, lots of different radios have voice memories, but I used the IC7300 as the rig to show you how it is done. So that's the point of a reference station. Okay, and I need to work more on the reference station for the tech. The problem is, for tech, there's DMR, D-Star, and C4FM. And I don't know what to do. Conduct a poll? Ask people to send postcards with their votes? I'm not sure what to do, but I've got to pick one and then pick a radio for it, and that'll be the reference radio. Now, I have most experience with DMR, but D-Star is very popular, and C4FM people swear by it. So, you know, it's one of those VHS versus beta kinds of things. Let's see. Long Island CW Club has QSL practice. Yes, they do. On many QRZ pages, I've seen the expression quoted without CW, it's just CB. That is utter baloney. But I hope that you do learn CW. I've got to tell you, if I use one of my QRP rigs and I'm doing CW and I get somebody 2,000 miles away on 5 watts, that's about a good flashlight, 5 watts. That's a very bright flashlight. That's all the power that goes out. To me, that's magic. That's the magic of ham radio, but don't know. Hello, Alexei. Any idea when the new study guide for extra class will be released? Should be very soon, by like in a week or two. Okay. Yeah. Suspect they have a surplus of field day t-shirts. Yeah, there was a big sale out there. How about a reference hotspot for digital radio? There is a kind that's built on the Raspberry Pi that seems to be a good one. Okay. Let's see. This question was actually from March. Samuel Fortin, KJ4VPI, says, hello, I've got 2 questions for you. Back in 2017, you posted a video on the U3S QRP transmitter for QRSS and Whisper. Yes, that project has been superseded by another. I think your video showed mounting of the GPS board internal to the case and running an SMA connection out to an existing antenna. Actually, I set it up for 20 meters. I've got it still. It's in the drawer right now because I've been using the 20-meter antenna for other things right at the moment. Now, do you remember the board you used to generate the 5 volt and 3 volt needed for the GPS box from the 13 volt supply? I use a simple little power supply. It consists of a capacitor input, capacitor output, and one of those regulator chips that takes 13 down to 5 volts. And then that powers everything. So, oh, it's been so long since I've looked at that. I'm going to have to get that thing out again. But it's QRP-labs.com. And they have the QRP Whisper transmitter. They have a receiver too. And you'll need the little GPS board. And the GPS board is in addition. It's a separate product. And as it turns out, I have 2 of them. I have one for the clock, and then I've got one for the Whisper. But it's that's where I got them. His question was, where did you get them? They're from QRP Labs. This is from Jeff Hughes. It's a page and a half. Jeff Hughes, K4EI, longtime subscriber, just to comment on testing your ground system. Oh, he's got a lot of data on using that clamp-on ground system. When I do the reference station ground, which I've got to do here soon, I've got the ground rod. I will show the proper use of that. I just did a quick demonstration. You want to do it on the ground rod itself or on the lead going to the ground rod to get the ground rod in the loop for what's going on. Are there OG t-shirts for sale? There certainly are. If you look at any of the videos, underneath the video on YouTube, there's several little merchandise items that you can go through. Somebody suggested I make a mouse pad. But they come from Teespring. People buy them occasionally, not very often. DRM, I think you mean DMR with a hotspot. Yes, that works. All DMR down in the Rio Grande Valley. Schuyler, we'll see you later. Is your amateur extra thumb drive updated for the next question pool? No, I haven't seen it. I have not seen the new book. It will follow the new book. So, thanks and a suggestion for a new antenna from David Mays, KJ6JNN. It's a new general licensee, talking about the reference station. He bought himself, let's see, the RS Astron is a switching power supply. Okay, length, coax. And he got himself an end-fed half-wave antenna from My Antennas, the 4010-2K antenna. Let's see, after looking closely at many antennas, settled on that one. And let's see, okay. He is interested on sending me one of the antennas and having me test it. Good. This was Monday, March 9th. It's May. It's been 2 months. I don't know if he still listens to me at all. But yes, I would be happy to test it. It's summertime now, so it's antenna season. We can start doing that. This is from Laretta Beesley, K7BEZ. Where do you find the considered operator's frequency guide? When I Googled it, there was nothing that seemed to fit the things you said on number 29. It used to be at the ARRL, when they published their frequency guide, this one, on the back of it, which is not here, there was something called the Considered Operator's Frequency Guide. It was a list of sort of sub-bands where people do things like slow scan TV, RIDI, stuff like that. And the thing was horribly out of date. And I think they've ceased publishing it. That they should revise it. Time changes. But yeah, it used to exist. The idea was if you knew that slow scan is going to be on this frequency, 14273 something. Anyway, they were only on that frequency. And so if you're operating on that frequency, since that's the only frequency that they could use, they didn't, you tried to stay away from that. Let's see, this is from Brian Mishmash N7CAP. Oh, he's talking about sport pilot license. Yeah, and I did take his advice. He talked about how I could start my training in any aircraft, which I am doing. It's a Cessna 182. And until I'm going to have a heart-to-heart with my instructor and pick up my own airplane here, because I'm going to need to solo in a light sport aircraft. I have the 8010 antenna from My Antennas. Love it. Good deal. Was Ham Nation today? I thought they did their thing on Wednesday. I picked up everything for the reference station except for the power supply, which I have had a couple Astrons. They're good. They're good. Okay, he's getting close to getting on the air. Okay, Randy Cox has answered that question about where to find the Considerate Operator's Frequency Guide, awrl.org/considerate-operator. Thank you for that, Randy. This is from KE0WXN. Videos helped me get back to my ham radio roots. Bought an ICOM 7300, set up an antenna, got into FT8, and so got an old Windows computer. It was all great until I decided to buy a newer, bigger monitor and an old Dell 17-inch with an old cord. Created no noise in the ICOM. I've purchased and returned 3 different monitors, and they all create spikes at 3 to 4 kilohertz intervals on 20 to 40 meter bands. The really cheap monitors were worse because they were made waves of noise. He says he's tried all kinds of ferrites, different cables, and grounding to no avail. I'm sorry to hear that you're having the trouble. That does not sound like any fun at all. Can I suggest going back to the old Dell 17-inch monitor? I know they're huge and very deep, but if it's radio quiet, it may be what you need. This monitor that I'm using here is an LG, and it's a 4K monitor. I found it at Best Buy, and it was an open box special, and I'm loving it. My last setup with the laptop, I had a second monitor, so I had two monitors, and then the laptop would not drive this L4 properly, even though it claimed to, which is why I went and got the new computer. Brad Rich is the one who walked me through this N6GR. So, yeah. Sometimes the older computer stuff is just made to higher standards because the people who were making it, like Dell, were hoping to place a lot of these in businesses. And they had to be well behaved electronically for that to work. Now a lot of the stuff is just computer consumer schlock. And you have to go get a business monitor for $700-800, whatever, to get something that's quiet. Make sure you get something written in your purchase order. You can return it if it's not quiet. Let's see. Oh, glad you got around. Yeah. Only imagine the challenges of building a slow scan decoder with discrete components. Oh, they weren't done with discrete components. Oh, no, they weren't. You did slow scan with an old, long persistence oscilloscope. And you fed the lines coming in off just the sound from the computer, from the radio, went right into the oscilloscope, and with lots of fiddling to get the right trace on there and so on. This long persistent scope, you'd have to get the room very dark, and then you sit there and watch the picture form on the scope, and as long as the persistence on the scope lasts a long time, you can kind of see the picture. It's brighter at the bottom, of course, because it's fading already at the top. That's how slow scan used to be done. There was no digital about it. Now, it's all digital now, but I can remember the bad old days when that's how we had to do that. Yeah. Yeah, and you might try shielding that cable too. Animation is on Wednesday. Okay. Let's see. This is about the FTDX 3000 from Randy at KC1EFF. I purchased the FTDX 3000 approximately 3 months ago with a multiband dipole with funds from a settlement from a motorcycle accident. Broke 2 legs. Ouch. I had a bad motorcycle accident, but that's how I met my wife. There was a little bit of a settlement from the accident, and I used that to join an old-fashioned dating service. This is back before the internet. That's how I met Laretta. Happy, but currently using an 857, 58, 891, a TS830. In others, and since to do a show around this rig, I understand how popular the 7300. Here's the thing. I mean, the point of the reference station is that's where I'm focusing. The 3000 is in the other room. And it's just sitting against the wall. It's going to get put back in the box and put in the closet while we convert that room back to a guest room. And so I'm not really doing anything with the 3000 right now. I'm sorry to say it's a wonderful radio. Never owned a radio that good. Ham Nation's views. Let's see. Yeah, well, I tend to more teach than just jabber. Ham Nation doing a lot of ICOM. You know, one of the things about ICOM is they've got Ray Novak. Ray Novak is their marketing guy. And he gets around. He's a good old boy who knows all the good old boys. And great guy. I enjoy him very much. He's, I remember at Dayton last year, I came over to the ICOM booth with the Yaesu hat on, because Yaesu was giving out hats to everybody. And he said, "Take that expletive hat off now." So I took it off and just looked at him. And he went over and rummaged and rummaged and rummaged and found me an ICOM hat and an ICOM t-shirt and an ICOM keychain. So, you know, he's very, very active with his marketing. When I talked to the Yaesu people at Dayton, they were all from the headquarters in Japan. And they didn't speak very good English. It was difficult to have a conversation with them. I tried both in 2018 and 2019 to see if they'd be interested in sponsoring my channel, but nothing came of it. I've talked with ICOM about that, but I've decided at this point I'm not going to take major sponsors for the show. You know, I'll let somebody sponsor an episode, but even that's pretty rare. I want to maintain independence here. And I picked the ICOM 7300 just because it's a fabulous radio at a fabulous price, and it's selling dramatically right now. It's the #1 radio. Okay, let's see what we've got here. I did not watch Contest University. I'll have to go back and look at that. Scope camera with the Polaroid 3000 ISO black and white film to keep a record of the image. Absolutely. I remember having to do that. That was... Those were the days. Yeah, so much easier to do things digitally now. Now, there are slow scan TV methods of transmission that are all digital. There's multiple ways of transmitting your slow scan TV, and the MMSSTV software will automatically figure out which one it is and will build the image for you. I tried playing with it once. I never could get anybody to respond to a CQ. Obviously, I didn't know what I was doing, so I just enjoyed a few of the pictures and let it go at that. Let's see. Could you see? Yes. The ICOM guys might come after you, say Japan has more operators per population than any other country. That is absolutely true, but there are two classes of hams, and the second class, I don't know, maybe they've got more, but the bottom class is a lot like our tech class, except they're only limited to like 20 watts output. That's why you see radios like the ICOM 705. It's a very, very nice radio, but it's only about 10 watts out. Okay. Their system of doing things is like many other countries around the world, where the second tier license is severely power limited. And if you want more power, I think there's one country, and I can't remember if it's Canada, if you score a little higher on the exam, you get to put out a little bit more power. It's different. We're used to in the United States. Well, when I was a novice, we were only allowed 75 watts. And then, you know, when I got my general, I could do 1500, but I couldn't afford the equipment for that. So I got the Yaesu FT201, which was about 280 watts in, and probably put out about 125, something like that. Let's see. This is from Tom Miller. I should know this, but I don't remember. Getting old. I have a Transcierver Amp ANtenna Tuner. I know they connect in the order above, but where would a dummy load be placed? After the antenna tuner. That way you can tune it up for the dummy load. I think so. Let's see. Query. This is from Sirsendu. Victor Uniform 3W. Tango Juliet. I think that's India. What are the equipments required for satellite tracking base station? Please help me with some details on how to choose the correct transceiver for this purpose. Well, you would want one of the DC to light rigs. Well, the 9700, the ICOM 9700 would do it, but so would an FT991, so would a lot of the Yaesus that go way up into the 2 meter and 440 bands or even above that. Now, satellite tracking, the real heavy-duty satellite, you can do some simple stuff with satellite with a handheld. But if you're really into it and you want to do the other satellites, you need an antenna system that's got reasonable gain, 10-element beam, something like that can not only go azimuth but elevation as well. Now, there are two ways of tracking satellites. One is you have a little thing that creates an eccentricity in the antenna, and you tune it for max signal strength, and then it automatically tracks the antenna. Hams don't use that. What hams use is pre-positioned information. They get the what are called the ephemerides, which is the plural of ephemeris. But you get the ephemerides, put them in the computer calculates where the satellite is and points the antenna in the right place. And that's the method. So you need ASL, and I think Yaesu makes a rotator for that. This is not going to be cheap. So, and then you need a computer to drive it. And then you have to also program in the Doppler shift and everything like that. And depending on where someone is relative to the satellite, if the satellite is approaching someone, it'll make the signal seem high frequency. If it's receding away from somebody, the signal will drop in frequency. It's really quite technical, but it's very nice. ICOM's top notch. Yes, they are. I have the 7300. It's a nice radio. Do you have a favorite portable radio for aviation frequencies for FAA licensed operators? I do not. I don't know enough about it. I do know that ICOM plays in that arena. And I see some of these older aircraft, the Arankas and stuff like that really don't have electrical systems. You have to start it by spinning the prop. I don't really want to do that. But they have little portable radios that they use for air traffic control, and they're usually ICOM. Now, Garmin is major into general aviation avionics, so Garmin's another choice there too. Do you have let's see, let's get an amateur TV. Ishmael is with us. Hello there. What is a good inexpensive radio for HF? Well, they're all good. Ishmael, you might want to look into used equipment. The lowest cost radio, let's see, there's the Yaesu FT450. There's the ICOM 718 that are among the lowest price. Do you need to use a special adapter to interface older HF tube amps with solid state rigs to prevent harmonics feedback? No, I just did a video on connecting an amplifier to this, and if you've got a tube amp, it'll have the same connections. There's going to be a transmit receive line, a push to talk line, and then there's going to be ALC, automatic level control feedback, back into your radio. And that arrangement has been around for decades, and including well back into the all-tube era for that. Sometimes you got to look at the current requirements on that push to talk. If it's too much, you might have to put a keying relay in there. And the same on the ALC. It should be 0 to negative 4 volts. As far as Japan, interesting questions. If we let the techs on HF phone here. It is possible that most would just stay tech, but most do stay tech now. I personally think it was my exposure to HF as a novice that really, really cemented my interest in ham radio. Of course, back then, 2 meters was not a thing, you know. Are doing it based on, yeah, okay. This is from Richard Nesbitt, N9MO, who is a patron, and via his PayPal account. Seeking advice on what I need to complete a setup for portable solar power for his ICOM 706 Mark II G. That was the original small form factor HF full power radio, full meaning 100 watts. Roll-up power port 32-watt battery from Cutting Edge. On a 12 solar charge control, and well, that should. What type of battery should I buy to be compatible with this solar panel? About anything. Your panel or your controller is probably set up for lead acid batteries. Go to Batteries Plus and get yourself a sealed gel cell or an absorbed glass mat battery of about 30 amp. It can't be 30, oh, the charge control. 32-watt battery. Get about an 80 amp hour to 100 amp hour battery. Now you could go lithium, but you'll need a different charge controller. Don't try to do a lithium battery with a lead acid charge controller. You will have bad luck. Do you recommend lithium or lead acid? Well, lithium if you can afford it. And yes, your lead acid battery should definitely be deep cycle. By the way, if you want to get away with it cheap, you can get about an 80 amp hour so-called marine battery from Walmart that for about 50, well, maybe 60 bucks, something like that. I have one of those here. I have to replace them about every 3 years, whereas my deep cycle batteries last me, well, these are really old and still work. So that would be something for that. Let's see. David Spivey, KR4WX, asks, how do you test ladder line for the correct ohms? Well, there are exotic test setups that you can do. But basically, what you do with ladder line, you calculate the characteristic impedance from the diameter of the wire and the distance separating the two wires. That will determine the characteristic impedance. Now, the impedance will be slightly affected by the dielectric, the plastic in between. Okay, if you put the wires closer together, the impedance goes down. That's why twin lead is 300 ohms. The window line is about 450, and the ladder line that actually has the ladder things on it. You hardly ever see true ladder line, but it has an impedance of about 600 ohms. You can make it anything you want. Now, to test it, we're starting to get into esoterica there to do it. There are some antenna analyzers that will do that, but I've never tried it. Let's see. Got a used H2F4 for $500. Yeah, that's a very nice radio. I want to learn and try DMR. How do I register for DMR call sign? I put go to my last video that involved DMR. I've got the URL in there, or somebody will put it up here if you want the URL. RadioID.net or something like that. Yeah, there it is, RadioID.net to register. That will register you there. Thank you, Tom. This is from Tommy Clemenson. Oscar Zulu 1 Tango Hotel Charlie. And his call sign is DK, or the country code is DK. A little expensive, I remember, let's see, for AC power and food transport. I've sent 1 kilowatt. He's I think, commenting on the station that he's used. He's only interested in CW. And I guess he's a big contester. They've got over in Eastern Europe, and this is a leftover from the Soviet days. Ham radio was considered a sport. And the state, well, there were the republics, would put together all these clubs for the different sports, including ham radio. And so there are, to this day, in Eastern Europe, a lot of large ham radio club stations that trace right back to these old things. So people there who want to contest and things like that, that was the sport. See, they call it radio sport to this day. Can use these big contesting stations, and they do some pretty fabulous things over there. Okay, this is from David Muoio KG7DQI. I apologize, I know I have mispronounced your last name. Been watching your videos regarding the reference station, saw a recent message regarding the Alpha Delta EE antenna. Yeah, it didn't work out, although I did make it work finally. Okay, I got it up and it covers 40 meter sideband and then all of 20 meters. Use fan shows that 8-to-1 across the 20 meter band. I'm a little surprised. I did not have a problem with the 20 meter part of it at all, and it's not up all that high, 20 feet at the apex. I set it up in an inverted V. Ended up making my own 20 meter dipole, which is easy to do, 33 feet long. Lives near Seattle, made voice contacts using JS8 call. That's something I need to try. Okay, cool. All right, very good. Yeah, that was an interesting antenna. That was a false start. I apologize for that. Oh, thank you. Is it a good idea to have lightning arresters at the tower and then at the house? Yes, you can do that. Or is it good enough to only have them at the tower? If you're only going to do one, I'd do it at the house. Okay, keep that stuff out. And John, thank you for pointing out, as we get into the last few minutes here, that Super Chat is open. Love having these daily streams. Good. Okay. This is from Art regarding CW on FLDIGI. How does FLDIGI generate CW? It generates an audio tone. Can one operate FLDIGI CW on any ham band frequencies one would operate regular? Yes. Can one operate FLDIGI CW at high power levels? Yes. But if your radio allows it, it would be good if you could have the thing key the transmitter. There are ways of doing that. I think we're going to... We've got another minute here. Okay, this is from Brian Mishmash again. Regarding the reference station. You mentioned that you would talk about the antenna mass construction. I did. I put a video together for that. There's a video that specializes just on putting those things up. May Taggums is having fun there. This is from James Rasmussen. What about the Comet Antenna CHA-250B for the reference station? I don't know. I'll just make a note here. I'll have to check that. I don't know anything about it. Not used a Comet antenna before. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up right there. Thank you all so very much for joining here on Thursday evening. These live streams are a favorite part of my week. We will do this again on Saturday at 1 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time, which is 1900 UTC Saturday. And send your questions to go to KE0WXN /ask-Dave and type in your question there. That seems to be more reliable. I get very, very few questions at Ham Radio Answers at gmail.com, and I'm not absolutely even sure that that address is working properly. I get so few there. But I appreciate very much you guys coming and supporting my channel and all of these things, and I hope that what I am doing is useful. I have this visceral desire to be useful. So thank you all very much, and let's see, Dave, Yesu I come, and Sporties all make airband radios. Obviously, Sporties is a rebranding of something. And getting a mug and t-shirt, good, thank you. Buy everything there. YouTube said that I'm supposed to have a merchandise line, so I had my assistant make one up, and it's there. I haven't promoted it, but you can certainly use it. So I'm going to wish you all a very good evening, and I'll try to have some sort of a video tomorrow. I think I'll do it on that subject of modulation techniques, and we will see you on Saturday. And until then, 73.